Professor, are you ready?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hey, hey, hey!
Ragazzi,
Hey.
ragazzi, ragazzi.
Hey, hey, hey!
Buonasera.
Amori.
Buonasera,
Hello,
buonasera,
hello!
buonasera. Buonasera.
Today Constantinos cannot drink wine in the happy hour because it's what time there? You are in the US?
It's 2 p.m. 2 p.m.
At 2
Oh,
p.m.
2
So
p.m.
no
2
gin
p.m. is
tonic.
okay.
No gin tonic.
Yeah, no gin tonic. I mean, it's okay. I draw the line somewhere here. 2 p.m. is a little bit early. Guys,
Yeah.
I miss you so much. Why didn't you come? Like,
Yeah,
it's
the
so.
question is why did you go? No, why didn't
Yeah, let's say.
Because I had promised that I would come. That's the problem.
Yeah. But Nisa, didn't you come to? Didn't you go?
No, this
No.
year
Okay.
we don't go to American Academy.
Okay.
Literally, nobody is here. Nobody.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mean from Europe?
Yes.
Yeah.
And from only Giovanni Pelagani.
Yeah. But I get the feeling, maybe I'm wrong, but I get the feeling that the American Academy became much more American than international in the last few years, right?
I have the same feeling. Also, they cut down a lot of oncology. So, like maybe 2 years ago, there were 10 sessions on oncology. This year, there are 3.
Only 3.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
That's strange.
Okay, so if I want to be invited again in the American Academy, I have to speak. I have to move to cosmetology or what? Right.
That's your
Aesthetic
field.
dermatology.
Which by the way, JP, anyhow, it's a good idea. Come on.
Of course.
Come on.
Yeah.
A new challenge. A new
Definitely.
yeah.
Definitely.
I would like to see this. I would like to see this. Hello to Berlin, to France, to Brazil, London, Riga, New Zealand, Dakar, Bologna, Quebec, Milano, Argentina, Chile, Turkey, Russia, Bulgaria, Beirut, Manchester, Armenia, Istanbul, Romania, Wales, Australia, Armenia, Hungary, Uzbekistan, and
Grande.
also to Orlando. Hello.
Grande. Today, by the way, we have a very nice topic, very philosophical, although also practical. Sebby, can you launch the question of the week? Because we are going to ask you, can a melanoma in situ disappear? Yes, no, who knows?
Why sometimes is not
Yeah, because sometimes it's definitely it's definitely the reasonable answer, but yeah, who knows? Yeah, 39.
I go for who knows.
Yeah. 43% is for yes. And in my view, this is quite, yeah, let's speak about it, right? Who's going to start?
Nisa, I think.
Okay.
Bene. What did you bring us, Nisa?
I'm going to talk on the micromelanomas.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I can't find my presentation. Let's open it.
By the way, guys, have you been to Orlando?
Yes.
Yes.
It's horrible.
Why you say so? Why?
Because everything is so far away. Like everything's for a car. You can't walk anywhere.
Yeah. Of course, it's a big city, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, can you see my screen?
Yes,
Sure,
we can.
sure.
Yes.
We can
Okay.
see it crystal clear.
Perfect.
Okay.
Go.
Today, I'm going to talk on 3 studies. To keep it short, I will try to summarize all these 3 studies about the dermatoscopic features of micromelanomas. And the first study is from Barcelona, from Susanna Puig department. And they call these micromelanomas, I like the terminology, mini-melanomas.
Mini.
And they included the melanomas with a size of 4 millimeter and smaller. And their aim was to analyze the dermatoscopic, confocal, and histopathological features of mini-melanomas, which are smaller than 4 millimeter in diameter. And here is the inclusion criteria. And they included 20 mini-melanomas, and the median breadth of thickness of these mini-melanomas were 0.32 millimeter. Can you consider a mini-melanoma? And the breadth of thickness is actually, they're all micro-invasive melanomas. And they plan a total dermatoscopy score for all these melanomas. And according to this scoring system, asymmetry, border pigment pattern, color variation, and 5 different structural components were scored. And if the dermatoscopy score was smaller than 4.7, this is an indication for a benign melanocytic lesion. And if it is between 4.8 to 5.45, this is a suspicious lesion. And if it is greater than 5.45, then this is highly suggestive of melanoma. They also looked at confocal microscopic images of all these 20 melanomas. And according to Barcelona algorithm for confocal diagnosis, they gave a scoring system 0, 1, and 2, and they are all indicator for melanoma. And 85% of all these melanomas were detected during digital follow-ups. They were either a growing lesion or a new lesion, and most common change was continuous growth with atypical globules or peripheral dots. And according to the common dermatoscopic features, atypical pigment network, atypical dots and globules were the most common dermatoscopic features, whereas peripheral streaks and regression signs were coming much more less than when comparing the first 2 dermatoscopic findings. And according to confocal microscopy classification, 87% of these lesions were classified as melanoma, and no lesions classified as benign according to RCM classification. So confocal microscopy was an excellent tool for diagnosing small melanocytic lesions, and this also helps confirm suspicion when dermatoscopy is inconclusive. And histopathologic findings, when coming to the histopathologic findings, 45% of these melanomas were invasive, and superficial spreading melanoma was the predominant pattern. And lesions, when coming to the lesion type, the majority of these melanomas were de novo melanomas. And many small melanomas lack specific dermatoscopic features for malignancy, and it's very interesting. Only 5 of 20 lesions had dermatoscopic findings strongly suggestive of melanoma. So the importance of digital follow-up is coming in the study because 85% of these melanomas were detected during digital dermatoscopic follow-ups. You can see 5 of 20 were dermatoscopically suspicious, but they were new lesions or changing lesions according to the digital dermatoscopic follow-up. And here you can see the comparison of dermatoscopic features and confocal microscopy, which is much more specific for these micromelanomas, confocal microscopic features. But it's a very expensive device and more time consuming and requires an expertise. And these are the disadvantages of confocal microscopy. And it's a second line tool used when dermatoscopy is inconclusive, and it's actually very effective in small melanocytic lesions when comparing with dermatoscopy. Here are some dermatoscopic features of the lesions in the study. You can see the total dermatoscopic score is 5.6 here, and confocal microscopy score is 0. But according to the algorithm, it's highly suspicious for melanoma. Again, another lesion, the dermatoscopic score is low here, but actually it was a melanoma which was detected during the digital follow-ups. Another lesion with a low dermatoscopic score. Another lesion, this time the dermatoscopic score is high, 5.7. And another lesion, an intermediate lesion according to the dermatoscopic score. And here are some lesions which were changing during digital dermatoscopic follow-ups, and they're all melanomas. And the second study is coming from Australia. It's a study of Pascal Gutera, and they evaluated the dermatoscopic features and screening strategies for the detection of small diameter melanomas. And their aim was to describe the clinical, histopathological, and dermatoscopic features of tiny melanomas and to investigate the impact of imaging tools in their detection. And this was a retrospective study in the Sydney Melanoma Diagnostic Center, and the inclusion criteria was melanomas smaller than 5 millimeter in diameter, and imaging tools were total body photography, sequential digital dermatoscopic imaging, and also dermatoscopy. And there are some diagnostic methods tested, which are Menzies method, 7-point checklist, 3-point checklist, and Rivas pattern analysis. And the lesions characteristics, when coming to the lesion characteristics, among 316 melanomas, 86 of these were tiny melanomas, smaller than 5 millimeter in diameter, and median size was 4 millimeter, and histopathologically, 44% of these were invasive melanomas. And when coming to the dermatoscopic performance, Menzies method and revised pattern analysis was the highest detection rates. When coming to 7-point and 3-point checklist, there were 48 and 49% for tiny melanomas respectively. And the frequent dermatoscopic features in tiny melanomas were the starburst pattern and globular pattern and radial streaming in tiny melanomas, and in non-tiny melanomas, it was 0.9. So when we see a radial streaming, it's much more common in tiny melanomas. And asymmetry of pattern was the most common feature overall, but less frequent in tiny melanomas. And here are some photos from tiny melanomas. It was detected during digital dermatoscopic follow-up. It wasn't there, but here you can see it's a tiny one and dermatoscopically. And this was an amelanotic melanoma. Breast of thickness was 0.2 millimeter. And when coming to which atypical features predict the invasiveness, especially when we see atypical vascular patterns and shiny white lines and gray-blue structures as expected, they were correlated with invasive melanomas. And when coming to diagnostic challenges, the dermatoscopy alone was insufficient to detect, again, tiny melanomas as the previous study. Only 20% was detected by baseline dermatoscopy, and most tiny melanomas excise based on new or changing lesions during total body photography and sequential dermatoscopic follow-ups. And when coming to the clinical implications, tiny melanomas require careful monitoring for change and new developments. And despite being small, 44% of these melanomas were invasive, and tiny melanomas have similar prognostic features to larger or invasive melanomas. And the key findings of the study was total body photography and sequential digital dermatoscopy follow-ups significantly improved the detection rate of tiny melanomas. and dermatoscopy alone is not enough for small lesions. And the takeaway message was similar as I mentioned previously. And the last study is coming from the Department of Emilios, and they evaluated dermatoscopic features of melanomas with a diameter up to 5 millimeter. And this was again a retrospective study, and they evaluated 350 melanomas. And of these, 26 were micromelanomas, and their diameter range from 2 to 5 millimeter, and mean diameter was 3.5 millimeter. And 20% of these melanomas were invasive, and 63 was in situ melanomas. And when coming to the invasiveness of micromelanomas, 27% of the micromelanomas in the study were invasive, and breadth of thickness was maximum thickness was 0.6 millimeter for invasive melanomas, and small size does not exclude invasiveness as the previous studies. And micromelanomas can already be invasive at diagnosis, and their most common dermatoscopic features were reticular pattern for in situ melanomas, structural pattern for invasive melanomas, atypical dots and globus, again for tiny melanomas, and irregular hyperpigmented areas for tiny melanomas. And less common features like shiny white streaks, blue-white veil, regression, and atypical vessels were most commonly observed in thicker melanomas. And here are two dermatoscopic photos of tiny melanomas in the study. So even though they were small lesions, you can see the cowls, radial streaks at the periphery, eccentric black clots, and they were all suggestive for melanoma. And the key message here again is micromelanomas are frequently invasive and can present challenge in early diagnosis. And I saw this patient last month, and he's a professor of thoracic surgery, and he was a friend of mine, and he said that I have a pruritus around the smaller one. You can see the smaller lesion here. And when I look at the dermatoscopy, the patient was 55 years old. You can see that it's a clear-cut melanoma, and breadth of thickness was 0.4, actually 0.5 millimeter. And the upper one, you can see the peripheral radial streaks at the periphery. This was also another melanoma, but this was in situ. This is almost 4 millimeter size in diameter, but this was 2 millimeter melanoma. And you can see the breadth of thickness. Although it's a very tiny one, breadth of thickness was 0.5 millimeter. Again, a tiny lesion, a papillary lesion, breadth of thickness is 0.2 here. Again, microinvasive melanoma, this lesion was detected during the dermatoscopic follow-ups, and the breadth of thickness was 0.16 here. Again, another microinvasive melanoma. They are all very small melanomas. That's it.
Very nice, Lisa. Wonderful. To sum up, I would say that all the studies converge to the conclusion that a good percentage of these very small melanomas are invasive. This is very important. In some studies, the percentage was 30%, in other studies 40%, but it does anyhow. It's a considerable proportion. That's a very important thing to remember. And the second thing that again was common in all the studies was the observation that many of them are featureless, therefore difficult to recognize, and many of them are in fact diagnosed during follow-up because of changes in the sequential imaging. There are already 3 nice questions / comments.
Very interesting.
Very interesting. I don't know if we want to go through them now or after Konstantinos. Konstantinos, you know what you have to speak about. So if you are in the same context, more or less, go. Otherwise, we take the questions first.
Let me go first as well.
Yes, it's better to go first. To go first with Constantino.
So that we sum up the questions.
Go.
Give me just 1 second. Okay, let's see. You see?
Perfect. Yeah, go.
Perfect. So let's go. So I'm going to sum up a little bit. Actually, I think that I'm going to add a little bit to what Nisa was saying with this very notorious paper regarding the micromelanomas and in general melanocytic lesions and the overdiagnosis. This is the paper that came up in 2021 by Wells and Adewale Adamson and Benjamin Mazer. It's a very well discussed paper. We have discussed it here as well several times. And the whole idea of this paper is that although we see a constant rise in the diagnosis of melanoma, both invasive and in situ, the melanoma mortality remains stable and actually has declined. And here they proposed this very radical approach, that a simple approach would be to return to the threshold used in the past, that is, not to biopsy pigmented lesions with a diameter smaller than that of a pencil eraser, 6 millimeters, which, as we'll show, as Nisa showed, I don't think that's a very good practice. And you know what? Probably they're right. The whole idea is right. In, for example, this 72-year-old male with this new lesion on the arm, tiny lesion. It's so tiny, it's less than 1 millimeter. It's not big enough in order to have clear-cut, dermoscopy features. And if we cannot tell, it's for sure that the pathologist will not be able to tell either, because it doesn't have enough space to show the architectural atypia, and most likely it will have some atypical cells. It's a new lesion, a 72-year-old. It could be a melanoma in situ, yes. Do we need to excise this? Probably not. We can follow up. And this is a point that I do understand. What they don't take into account, though, is morphology. So this is another case of, a lesion on the leg of a lady. This is a 4 millimeter lesion. And, okay, come on. This is a nested melanoma of the elderly. 78-year-old female, this lesion changing. Most likely this will be a slow-growing melanoma. I don't know if this one will regress. I cannot tell, I cannot guess. But, okay, this is a slow-growing melanoma. Even if we don't take it out now, and we take it out when it's above 6 millimeters, it will be okay, most likely. However, this is also a lesion that's below 6 millimeters. Is it in situ? Yes, it is in situ. But should we leave it there? Would you leave it there? Why? Just to not have 5 stitches? Literally, this can be taken out with a wise excision, with 5 millimeter clinical margins, and get done with it. And the patient doesn't come back, he doesn't have the anxiety, and we don't have the fear of actually losing the patient to follow up. So not taking out lesions below 6 millimeters. How much do they need to be? 1 centimeter? 2 centimeters? 10 centimeters? Like, what is the threshold that we pull on that? And coming to the question that Zepi said, can melanoma in situ regress? Do you have any doubt that this is a melanoma in situ?
No.
No. Will it regress? It's possible.
Eventually.
It's possible. It's possible that this will regress. It's showing the stages of regression. But not all lesions are the same. Morphology needs to be taken into account. So this is a patient with a history of 2 primary melanomas, and on follow-up presents with this lesion. Okay? It's new. It has these peripheral dots. And yes, this was a melanoma in situ. You know what I did? I took it out with a 4 millimeter punch, and it's done. The patient, you can even not put stitches in a 4 millimeter punch. And the patient is done with it. Here again, a melanoma that's less than 2 millimeters on the leg of a female. Is it so troublesome to take this out? And what will be the cost? of this being termed as a melanoma. We know that it's a melanoma. Could it regress? Yes. But if the patient is lost on follow-up, do you want to have the burden that you didn't take it out just because you didn't want to excise a 3 millimeter, a 2 millimeter lesion? And of course, as Nisa was saying, below 6 millimeters are way uglier lesions. Like this was a 2 millimeter Breslow melanoma, less than 6 millimeters. This one, 0.4 millimeter melanoma, 3 millimeters in diameter. This one, less than 6, 0.5. And the list goes on and on. You can have really ugly lesions, less than 6 or 5 millimeters, and especially when they're showing dermoscopic features. So my point is that morphology does matter. Morphology matters both in the way that you approach a lesion and the way that you approach a patient. This was a 1 millimeter melanoma, okay? And it's how much? 5 millimeters in diameter? Again and again, 1.5 millimeter melanoma. And here, a melanoma metastasis to this unfortunate lady, only with vessels and 3.5 millimeters in diameter. So my point being, yes, melanoma could potentially regress. We need to be aware of small lesions because, as Nisa showed very beautifully, there are all these lesions that will not only be melanoma in situs. We need to be aware of them and act accordingly on a patient case, basis. There's no one rule fits them all.
Fantastico, fantastico.
Perfetto, perfetto.
Very nice, very nice. I think we can go through the questions now because they are nice and they will help us to do the discussion we want to do.
Yeah.
So starting from the first one, why not? Jean says, if tiny melanomas are so often invasive, could this be because we are selecting out the high-risk patients because they are the ones who have the digital dermoscopy follow-up arranged? Are these findings likely to be replicated in lower-risk patients if we were really good at spotting them clinically in the lower-risk patients? Okay. I understand the question. I think, Shin, that this is not related to the high-risk patients means that they are high risk to develop melanoma because they have risk factors like Meni-melanoma or previous history of melanoma, and that's why we monitor them with digital follow-up. The fact that of the small melanomas, 30% or 20% or 40% are invasive, in my view, is not related to the phenotype of the patient. So I guess that it would be replicated also in lower risk patients. A similar result. I don't know if it would be 20 or 30 or 40%.
Half of the patients that I showed were not high risk.
Yeah.
They were just presenting at baseline. But I do understand Chin's idea of like, it's impossible to answer this because in order to do that, we need to do a population screening and excise all suspicious lesions. I think that the main point that we need to keep is if something, so mini-melanomas do exist, and once we see an ugly-looking lesion, we don't need to keep in mind just the clinical diameter, but morphology is what drives us, and a patient-based orientation is the one that should guide our steps.
Yeah. And by the way, the available evidence suggests that those individuals with many nevi, for example, it's the opposite. So they usually have less aggressive melanomas, strangely enough, not more aggressive melanomas. Yeah. So it could be possible that it would be even worse in the low risk groups. Second question, do you think that currently more than 85% of melanomas are de novo, as was shown in one of the studies that Nisa showed. I do believe from my clinical observations that the percentage is 85 or maybe 90. I think you also share the same belief.
Yeah.
Literature suggests
Yeah.
that it's 70, 72 de novo. I feel it's much more than 72. But,
More than 80 for sure. It's
yeah.
more-
So I agree on that. However, it's very common that the pathologist will term the melanoma as nevus associated, whereas you have follow-up. You know that the lesion was not there and just comes out.
Mhm.
It's a very thin line. I don't know how pathologists do determine this.
Yeah.
Debbie, do you have any idea?
It's clear cut in my view. It's because sometimes melanoma can have areas in which it's so subtle, it's so, let's say, inconspicuous that the pathologist is prone to call it nevus. But this is still part of the melanoma, which is developing slowly. Yeah.
I absolutely agree. I think that's the reason.
Do you think that there is a possible role for super high magnification dermoscopy 400 in detecting micromelanomas? Probably, but we're not still there. It's a brand new technique under investigation, but probably there is much information there that we have to discover. Can we correlate tiny melanomas to a specific mutation? I do not think so. I think that all melanomas are tiny before they become large. Therefore, all kinds of melanoma pass through this stage of being very small. So I don't think it's related to any specific mutation or any specific melanoma type.
By the way,
Yeah.
Emilius, conceptually, so if it's a melanoma arising on a congenital nevus, the congenital nevus is 0.8 centimeters, so 8 millimeters, and you have an area in the side developing as melanoma. What's the size of that melanoma? Is it a mini melanoma? Is it a 1 millimeter melanoma, or is it a 0.9 centimeter melanoma?
That's difficult to say.
Who knows?
Yeah. When a melanoma develops inside the nevus, really, it's difficult to delineate where the melanoma starts and where is the nevus. Do you think that small lesions could be histologically difficult to categorize and increase the risk of overdiagnosis of melanoma due to extra stress for the pathologist to answer the case? Of course, they are much more difficult to categorize, absolutely. Could a
They
short
generally call it as samples or something like that.
Yes. Could a short follow-up be a better solution for these cases, although the risk to lose the patient in follow-up? Thank you. Although Konstantinos answered the question more or less, I would say that I don't think that in clinical practice there are many scenarios in which follow-up is a better solution, because especially for mini melanomas, which are by definition easy to excise because they are mini, because they are very small. So in the clinical practice, I think that usually almost always, we prefer to finish and solve the problem with a rapid excision. Only in very selected, strange scenario, I could think about for preferring follow-up. Do you agree, my friends?
Yeah.
I do agree. I have to admit that sometimes I do follow up melanomas that I'm sure that are melanomas, like a short term, just to see like the evolution, how they develop, but only with selected patients that I know will come back in 3 months, like clockwise. It's a very specific set.
Yeah. Monica says that she agrees with Konstantinos about excision thing. I wonder how many people actually completely regress very small melanomas and we never know. I also wonder, maybe these people are less likely to grow clinically obvious melanomas because their immune system clears them, but I don't know how we could ever know this. That's a very nice comment. We spoke about it in another episode that we were speaking about regression. That's true. We don't know how many melanomas start, and at some point they grow a little bit, and then they are destroyed practically by the immune system. We all believe that this happens, but we cannot say how often.
Yeah.
One of the cases that I showed the doctor patient, there was an erythema Meyerson phenomenon around was a very tiny lesion. Maybe the immune system was trying to destroy the lesion. We don't know. It was a popular lesion with a lot of inflammation around.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Gary says it's not so simple. If you leave these small melanomas and your colleague picks them up, then patient says you're not good. Well, I agree. Nobody here, Gary, suggested that we should leave these melanomas. We all argue for excising them practically always. Is it necessary to follow up after punch biopsy of micromelanomas? Well, it's always necessary to follow up a melanoma patient in general, therefore also in this scenario. The invasive micromelanomas are most commonly superficial spreading or nodular. I think from the studies that we have, they are most commonly superficial spreading as melanomas are in general, most commonly superficial spreading.
Yeah. I suppose we answered all the question, but let's go a little bit on the topic of today. Is it possible that some amount of melanomas are going to disappear? Emilio, you have you go.
No, you go, especially if you want to answer this question. This is not what I have in my cases. So
Okay.
Yeah.
So perfecto. So let's go for a moment on this particular issue, because in my view, this is in my view one of the possible answers to the numbers of melanoma today, to the melanoma epidemic, which is the figure today. Let me start with a case. This is let's say a 65-year-old gentleman, and there is a big lesion here with micro nodular lesion with aggregated papules and so on. Extremely difficult to understand clinically what it is, but also dermoscopically, let me tell you, this was not helping too much. We thought as a main preoperative diagnosis that this could be dermatofibrosarcoma protuberans. We did actually a punch biopsy, and this revealed to be melanoma. Okay, so now interpreting the clinical situation, this is a nodular melanoma. Probably this is the primary lesion here, and these are microsatellites. So macro satellites. So this is a stage 3 melanoma, basically. So we did just a punch biopsy, and this was occurring at the end of July. As you know, probably in Italy, August is a very is a month of vacation in Italy. So the patient was coming back for getting his histopathologic report at the end of August. So let's say 3-4 weeks after, and this is the situation.
Miracle.
You just take a biopsy,
Yeah.
not excise it completely.
Nothing, just a punch, a 4-millimeter punch.
Wow.
Can you imagine? This is
Reverse Koebner.
This is literally a miracle. Of course, we excised anyhow the entire, let's say, piece of skin, and there was nothing remaining there. Even though there was a small papule remaining here, but there was nothing, just a little bit of regression, melanophages and stuff, but nothing at all anymore. So a stage 3 melanoma that decided to disappear for any reason, maybe because of the punch.
Who knows? Who knows if the punch plays a role or not?
Who knows? And we know,
was there any metastasis in PET CT, in lymph nodes? No metastasis.
We did complete staging. There was nothing, and the patient is still
so interesting.
Under follow-up. He did nothing. By the way, we still did anyhow send in a node biopsy, and we found nothing. So anyway, this is an extreme case, okay? But there are many more. It's much more frequent to have this clinical situation here. So 1 month ago, another patient came a few years ago, he came and let's say referring that 1 month before he got a palpable lymph node that was excised, and it was diagnosed as a melanoma metastasis in the axilla. Okay, so of course he was sent to us for assessing the skin, and we found clearly where is the primary melanoma. And the primary melanoma is still here. But in this particular case, we were, let's say, lucky enough to find the primary. But in many cases, in where the first visibility of the disease is the lymph node metastasis, you don't find at all the primary lesion on the skin. And don't think that this is a melanoma, primary melanoma of the internal organs, but because this does not happen at all. It's a primary melanoma which disappeared completely, regressed completely, and then, of course, for any reasons, the cells were able to metastasize in the lymph nodes. Okay, so if this is, the situation, it could be possible that also melanoma in situ can disappear. And in my view, this is probably the best explanation why we have these figures. The melanoma epidemics is like this. Melanoma in situ is increasing dramatically worldwide, while thick melanoma remains stable. Okay? If none of these melanomas are going to disappear, come on, if we excise so many melanomas in situ, in some way we could expect at least some kind of decrease of the amount of thick melanomas. Maybe you could say, okay, but melanoma worldwide is increasing by the incidence of melanoma is in situ is increasing worldwide, but still, the amount of melanomas in situ which are diagnosed is so much that sooner or later we should expect to have a decrease of the amount of thick melanomas. So in my view, the most reasonable explanation of the overall scenario in melanoma is this one that was published in 2010. I love this graph, because this is explaining the melanoma family in a very nice way. Okay, so this was published in general, all kind or many kinds of different cancers, not only melanoma, but prostate or thyroid and so on, are represented by different types of tumors possessing a different biology, a different aggressive behavior. Okay, so there is an amount of melanomas which are very fast and which are very soon becoming aggressive, causing symptoms, and eventually provoking death of the patient. And in the realm of melanoma, which one is the type we are speaking about?
Nodular
melanoma.
Nodular.
Okay, of course. Then there is a slower type of melanoma, which is sooner or later, maybe after a few years, able to cause symptoms and to bring patient to die. And this is superficial spreading melanoma. And then, of course, we have a very slow type of melanoma, and this is lentigo maligna. Eventually, lentigo maligna will never, if it's appearing in an 80-year-old lady, it will never become aggressive for the patient and will never cause the death of the patient. And then finally, we have an amount of melanomas which are not progressive. They are stable, or they are even going away. They are regressive. Of course, in this group, we have to consider also this kind of melanomas, which are called melanoma by the pathologists, but they are not melanomas. So they are errors or difficult lesions to be assessed. So in my view, this is the most reasonable explanation why we have this kind of melanoma epidemic.
Wonderful.
Amazing.
Wonderful.
There was a question about how frequent is the case that you showed. You answered already that it's extremely rare. That was an exceptional, maybe a unique case. Chin says a question that nobody can answer. I wonder if JP had fully excised that melanoma at the beginning, if the prognosis would be so good or not. Obviously,
Good question. Good question.
obviously there is no answer to this
Good
question.
question, but no answer.
So surgery prompts the immune system to get to work, is a question from Andrea. Well, I mean, come on, that's a single case, so no conclusions can be extracted from a single case. But you cannot exclude that this could sometimes be the case. Veronica says that this happens also in other tumors, for example, primary cutaneous anaplastic large cell lymphoma. If you biopsy, that might trigger regression. So it's not completely crazy. It could
Loma annular as well.
Yeah, melanoma as well. Yeah.
if you consider that transplant patients present melanomas, already this fact is a proof that many melanomas are destroyed before we detect them.
Yeah.
Correct. Did you make immunotherapy for the melanoma that disappeared completely after punch?
No.
That's a good idea, but would you do it today? Because maybe back then you could not do it, but now that it's a stage 3 melanoma,
Well, yeah, it's a case where you have to discuss a lot. But yeah, why not? Why not? Could be.
Well, 20% severe adverse events.
Yeah.
Versus with no disease present. It's a very tough discussion.
Exactly.
a very tough discussion because the unique
Eventually, that patient will die.
Yeah.
Don't you think so?
We
The one that
we
the
use
melanoma disappears completely. I think he will die because of melanoma metastasis sooner or later.
well, hopefully, let's hope not.
Let's hope not.
But being motivated by Jeppy's presentation, guys, melanoma of unknown primary is reportedly 3 to 5% of all cases. In your practice, how common is it?
It's not 3 to 5%. It's less than that. But we have I don't know, 30 cases overall in my experience, no more than that. So
The point is that, as JP said, and as we said analytically in that episode that we discussed for regression, we only know those melanomas that regressed completely, but metastasized.
exactly.
And that's
the
why we
point.
know.
The bias is this one. This is a bias. We only know those which are going into metastasis. Yeah.
Which, reasonably speaking, they should be a minority.
Yeah.
The vast majority, theoretically, at least I believe, of melanomas that disappear completely because they are destroyed by the immune system, we never learn that they were there because they do not metastasize. The immune system destroys them, and it's the end of the story. But we cannot prove it, of course.
And this opens a huge can of worms. Okay, melanoma, but what happens with BCC, which is way more common? And we have many stories of BCCs that are extremely slow growing, or that they can happen and regress. So
Same story.
Yeah.
Yes.
It should be very common.
Sebi wants to show something.
Sebi is telling us to stop philosophizing.
Go, Sebi, go, Sebi, go, Sebi. Fantastico. So should I go, Sebi, or you want to show something more? No, I guess I should go.
Go, Emilio.
I go. So I start with a nice panel. You know that I like panels very much. So it's a nice panel with 20 mini-melanomas. All of them, you can see also the ruler, all of them are smaller than 5 millimeters. They are not the ones that were included in the study that Nisa showed. These are melanomas from the last months, okay? So, question for the audience. Question for the audience. Sebastiano, how many invasive melanomas you think that you see in this panel? You can select from 0
Theoretically,
to
8.
8. From 0 to 8.
They're 20, so 40%, around 8.
8, 8, 8. According to the study, 44%
Well,
should be
come on, based
melanoma,
on what you
then 8.
see, based on what you see.
No, but Emilius,
8.
honestly, these are so small images, we cannot tell.
You're right. In fact, I have a better image with a little bit magnification
Yeah.
of all of them. Yeah. So let's see the answers. Well, the most voted answer is 4. Okay. And the second most voted answer is 5. And by the way, the correct answer,
Emilius,
yeah,
is 8.
8,
No.
The most
8.
voted
It's
is
You go
8.
down, 8,
really,
39%.
I didn't see the number 8. It was
8, 60%.
I really sorry, I didn't see it. I didn't see it.
8.
8%. Yeah, but they were influenced by what you were saying. 8, 8, 8, 8. So the correct answer, however, is 5. So
Okay.
it's 5 out of 20, which
Okay.
means 25%. It's okay. Now, guys, my friends, can you find them? Go, 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 go.
Number 5. 1.
Number 5.
1, 5, 7, 11, and 18.
Well, you're very good. You said 1, 5. Let's see. 1, 5. So, sorry, first of all, the correct answer was 6. The correct answer was 6, not 5. And these were the invasive melanomas that were included in this panel.
30%.
30%, 30%. Yeah. Repetitive number again. 30%. These were the ones. Obviously, it's not easy to say. I mean, there is not much difference between these melanomas and the other ones. The point is that once again, we have a number of melanomas with a diameter less than 5 millimeters, and again, 30% are invasive. Repetitive example, like in the study that Nisa showed earlier, and also in all the studies that Nisa showed earlier. So we have to realize and accept that small diameter does not necessarily mean that the melanoma is in situ. In fact, there is not a good correlation between the diameter of the melanoma and the breast lobe thickness. And that was shown also in this study that we did a couple of years ago, in which we included a number, 400 cases of melanoma. And if you think about it, reasonably, what would you expect? I would expect that the two dimensions would go proportionally. So when the horizontal dimension increases, the vertical dimension should increase. So it should be more or less something like this. But it's not like this in reality. In reality, it's like this. So there is a very poor correlation between the diameter and the breast lobe thickness of melanomas. And there's a big difference from what we expected. So we cannot use the diameter in order to predict thickness. It's extremely dangerous to do so. It's possible.
Morphology.
Exactly.
Morphology, yeah, exactly.
Morphology, exactly. And look here, in the group of melanomas in situ and in the group of melanomas T1, the median diameter was precisely the same. So you cannot use the diameter in order to decide if the melanoma is in situ or invasive, because they have precisely the same diameter. So that has to be clear in our minds, and that's a great answer, of course, to those that propose to use the diameter as a threshold in order to excise or not excise a lesion. No way. We should no way use the diameter as a criterion. So we should excise them all, since we consider them suspicious for melanoma. we consider that there is one exception that Jeppy also mentioned. We know that there is one melanoma subtype which is extremely slow growing. I'm speaking about lentigo maligna, and today that we have a method to diagnose small lentigo malignas like this one, I'm speaking about the inverse approach. We can today recognize melanoma like this or a melanoma like this. And in these cases, maybe we could think that an excision is not absolutely necessary and we could do alternative things. But I don't think so, guys. I don't think so for two reasons. First, because it's extremely easy to excise a melanoma like this one. And second, because you never know which will be the one case that the melanoma will behave in a different way. And let me conclude with this impressive case that was included in the panel that we saw at the beginning. So look at this. That's the clinical. That's dermoscopy. This was one of the 20 lesions I showed you earlier. So it looks like what? Lentigo maligna in situ, or if not in situ, then maximum microinvasive, correct?
Yeah.
And look what this melanoma did. In the immunohistochemistry, it's much more thin. It's
Wow.
Much more thicker.
unbelievable. So it is a melanoma in situ that
It's
I don't
going
know
down
why.
from the follicle. Yeah.
Through the follicle,
Yeah.
invaded. Look what kind of invasion it in the dermis, and now it's melanoma 2.5 in breast tissue thickness because of this deep dermal invasion. Of course, this is again an exceptional case. This is not obviously something very frequent, but you cannot predict when it's going to happen. So
I have one exactly similar case. You've seen it. That
Yeah.
through hair follicle, it went to 2.3.
Absolutely. Yeah. So therefore, I think that we can conclude at least that it's a very fascinating discussion. What's going to happen, which is the fate of a small melanoma. Sometimes, in fact, it does not follow the predicted way of growing and invading. Sometimes it might remain stable. Sometimes it might disappear. From a clinical point of view, all this discussion is not so meaningful in my view.
It's not relevant. It's not
relevant.
Yeah.
As Constantino said, as soon as we understand that this lesion should be removed, we remove it,
Exactly.
independently from
Yeah.
the destiny of the lesion. Yeah.
Your last case was amazing, Emilios. The hair follicle behaves like a slide for the atypical melanocytes. It's really very interesting. Great case
It's
from the histopathological point.
unbelievable case. I mean, at the beginning, you understand that we thought it was a mistake that we sent a specimen of another individual until we realized which was the case. So, Sebastiano, what else do we have?
Which dermatoscope unites diagnostic precision and fits into any pocket? The Delta One unites diagnostic precision and fits into any pocket.
Fantastico. So size matters, and concerning dermatoscopes, we prefer the small size. Huh?
Yeah. I agree.
Very good. Sebbi, we have a suggested quote, tiny moles that change and grow, warn us of dangers that we should know.
No? Yes? Yes, we have. From Dakar, Senegal. Wonderful.
Can I just share one thing for a second? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Yes. No. After Sebi. Go, Sebi.
Afterwards.
Okay. Dr. Murad, 50 years old woman, and what is it?
Ah,
Melanoma,
bad
Sebi,
melanoma.
skin of color.
doing something weird. I cannot see very well.
Yeah. There are some strange stuff here. But anyway, it's
Sedation,
easy.
pigmentation, okay. Could be
Opposite.
many things, yeah.
Okay. There are some differential diagnoses like this.
Okay.
And the histology was invasive squamous cell carcinoma.
Ah.
Of course, on dark skin.
Yeah.
Good reminder that on dark
Yeah.
skin, squamous cell
It's
carcinoma
a-
might
it's
be
a-
pigmented.
Yes, it's a good reminder. Very minority of squamous cell carcinomas in Caucasian people are pigmented, but still there are some. But of course, in dark skin, it's much more obvious. It's much more common. Yeah.
Can we do an episode on dark skin?
Of course. Of
Yeah.
course.
Absolutely.
The case of Daria,
Daria, grande Daria.
two flat papules, 1 and 2.
Ah, black and white.
Yeah.
Lichen
first one.
planus.
Lichen
Lichen
and
planus.
dermatofibroma.
Lichen.
Lichen, the first
Yeah.
one, yeah. Lichen, this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, so you see that for lichen planus, you don't need colors.
Yeah.
Black and white
Yeah.
is sufficient.
There's a really nice paper by Ash Magoo because Ash is colorblind. You know that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And so he put everything in black and white, and the diagnostic accuracy was actually the same.
Case 2.
Wonderful case. Beautiful. Ah, there is a video.
Yeah, this is good.
I like these videos, by the way. Yeah.
So, case 1, lichen planus, case 2, Wickham pseudo network. Thank you, Daria.
Thank you, Daria. Perfetto.
And the other one, we can do it.
Yeah, Bruno
Yeah,
Pretti,
go.
translation, brown, little brown.
This is after 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was like a junctional component and partial spitzoid aspect.
So at the end of the day, it was diagnosed as a compound nevus.
Another one,
Okay.
just compound nevus.
Okay. Accepted because of the age and the overall.
Yeah.
And nevus.
And nevus, junctional nevus.
Okay.
That's
Dysplastic nevus.
no, that's too much.
Come on. This is a little bit too much.
That's too much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Junctional nevus.
No.
I would
No.
challenge the
This is a melanoma.
Okay, he has his archivia of the case in melanomas not confirmed histologically.
Not confirmed histological. Nice. Yeah, I like it. I like it. Very good. Very good.
Very good.
Costa, you want to show something or we go to?
Yes, I want to show something like very, very quickly.
Yeah.
About what you said, like the alternative choice that we have. So this is a 76-year-old female with this lesion. Do we have any question about the diagnosis?
No.
Okay. But what I want to see is that we need to be ready for very, very bad reactions.
Yeah, because there is also a lot of sun damage on.
Yes. So
Yeah.
this was excised, and there were still atypical cells in the periphery. So I went for imiquimod, and the poor lady, she suffered. But when she came, I saw her last week. She was
She
like,
wants to do the other part now. She wants
exactly.
to do
No, she wants to do the
Yeah.
other side.
exactly. That's the usual stuff. Yeah, that's the usual stuff.
Very nice.
Fantastico. Can you tell me how you treat keratoacanthoma? Do you excise them from the very beginning or related to the duration? You wait a bit and see later. Monica, that's another nice topic. Another nice topic.
Yeah. We excise them. We excise them.
No need to take a risk.
Yeah.
I excise them as well.
Yeah.
Let's say conservatively though, huh?
Yeah.
Conservatively, yeah. Why are there gray squares? Yeah, there were gray squares.
Yeah, it's Sebastiano. Sebastiano has a very bad computer. We have to upgrade his computer.
Come on, Zepi, you should do that.
Today I had a lot of problem with the computer.
Ragazzi, are you ready for Penelope?
Yes, mixture of cases.
Mixture of cases. The first one, as always, for Nisa, nose. That's a non-pigmented lesion on the nose, 67-year-old, new blue. Could be, okay.
Bluish.
Trichoepithelioma.
Not so blue, I would say.
Trichoepithelioma.
Tricho something.
Basalioma.
Or BCC, of course. Yeah.
Tricho something.
Yeah, tricho something, central homogeneous area, surrounded by a pale halo, one rosettal, vascular. Yeah, and it was not tricho, it was ecrine.
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 Anyway, it's skin appendage. Okay, it's okay.
It's still, yeah, adnexal. The next one for Constantinos, ear. Yeah. Ugly. 58-year-old flammable lesion on the helix. That's dermoscopy. Ugly still.
Not so ugly now.
Not so ugly now because there is a network. At least focally. Yeah.
It's chaotic. It's a melanoma.
It's quite ugly. Yeah. Overall. Okay. Thanks to the inverse approach, lentigo maligna. Okay. Next one for Jeppy, adult. What's that? A nice
Santagranoma.
Nice papule.
Santagranoma.
38-year-old, orange, back. Yeah.
Santagranoma.
Yeah. It's a good option. Yeah.
You see the shiny lines?
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah. It's a xanthogranuloma.
Xanthogranuloma, why did I remove it? Because like children in adults, it does not disappear spontaneously. Also, it's a strange finding in adult people to see xanthogranuloma, so it makes sense.
And also, guys, I remind you of my yellow melanoma, 6 millimeters. It's like, I'm way more cautious now with yellow things.
Next one on the nail case for me.
Onychopapilloma.
Discovered onychodystrophy following direct trauma. That's the most.
Very
we see the line, we see the keratotic mass underneath the nail, proximal part, erythronychia. Distal part, we can see much better the keratotic mass under the nail. And I mean, I am amazed. You will see in a moment why. I just saw a minute ago the case, and I said it's unbelievable because you will see what I have in the Kahoot. So the diagnosis of onychopapilloma, Bowen's glomus or melanoma. I think it's a clear-cut onychopapilloma. With almost all the signs. The only thing missing here is the triangular notch.
The V-shaped.
The V-shaped notch.
Splinter hemorrhoids.
So these are the features that I already described. And the diagnosis is, of course, onychopapilloma. And finally, for Sebi, lumbar lesion, 58-year-old, blah, 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 left lumbar lesion. That's the nice dermatoscopic
Oh,
aspect.
Oh, nice,
Okay.
nice.
There is probably
Collision.
nevus on the left.
Or
Collision.
collision between nevus, maybe a dermal nevus.
Yeah,
There
clear
are.
cell
Clear
Clear
cell.
cell
acanthoma.
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 Clear
Yes,
cell
clear
acanthoma
cell.
and nevus.
cell acanthoma and nevus. Very good. Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much, Penelope.
Bravo.
Always wonderful cases. Now, are you ready? Are you ready
For you always, Emilio.
for another difficult Kahoot?
Easy or difficult?
Difficult, always difficult from now on.
Okay, I'm going to play.
Because our audience is, yeah, I mean, they are very good, so we need to.
Zepi, when are you coming in Athens? When are you flying?
I'm flying quite early, by the way. Already on the 3rd.
Wednesday.
Okay, nice. Okay,
Yeah.
we're going to arrange something.
Since you mentioned it, why don't you say to the audience what is going to happen in Athens in 1 month from now?
Absolutely. So it's the European Academy of Dermato-Oncology Conference along with the 11th World Melanoma Congress.
Yeah.
A really nice conference.
Yeah, the World Melanoma Congress is so good. It's so good. It's number what? Number
11.
11. Wow.
Yeah.
I was at the 3rd.
Debbie, do you think that we will be in the 20th World Congress of Melanoma?
Yeah,
The
because
20th,
this is ongoing every 4 years,
every
right?
4 years. So the 20th will be in 36 years from now.
At least I want to be at the 13th.
Nisa, are you coming to Athens?
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
coming.
yes.
Excellent.
Okay, guys, let's go. I forgot to share the sound, so you don't have sound, I guess.
Okay, I can do the sound.
Do it.
Okay.
So that's
The
that
same
is the first case.
This is a brilliant case. There was a
Yeah,
suggestion, by
almost
the way.
similar.
There was a suggestion to speak about nail pathology in one of the episodes. Yeah.
So, onychopapilloma, onychomatricoma, subungual wart, or squamous cell carcinoma.
God bless you.
Thank you.
And by the way, in this image, there is also
The
a
wedge.
triangular notch
Yeah.
of onychopapilloma.
Yeah.
Very good, very good.
Gianpaolo.
Gianpaolo, Bertaccio, and Micro.
Now that he's here, we know who will be the champion
Mini-oma.
today.
So imagine how strange it is. I almost never include nail cases in the Kahoot. I decided to do it today, and Penelope almost never sends cases on nails, and today she decided to send an
Great
onychopapilloma.
coincidence.
Wonderful. Case number 2, guys. Pay attention. Pay attention.
Oh, I love it. I
Yes.
love it.
Yeah.
Diagnosis. Do you think that this is a BCC, an SCC, a seborrheic keratosis, or an acantholytic disc keratoma?
I like green color.
And it is, wow. I thought it was
Great.
I thought it was difficult, but no, it was not difficult. An acantholytic disc keratoma with the central stellate ulceration that is very, very similar, well, identical to what we see in the papules of Grover's disease, which is an acantholytic dermatosis. Very nice.
Varicose keratosis.
Yeah.
What happened here? Mini-melanoma is now in the first
Mini-melanoma.
stage. Albertaccio and Ali, Red Kit and SCC. Third case, 3 basal cell carcinomas. The question is,
Which one is the highest?
order them from less to more aggressive, from less to more.
Ah, interesting.
Oh, wow, 40, I forgot to change the time.
Ah,
And now we have still 37 seconds.
what? Why? How can it be possible?
Let's take our time to discuss Athens. What are we going to do?
Yeah, we have to have fun.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I will arrange for sure drinks and dinner.
Say something different.
What did you expect?
Fun is immediately correlated to drinks, right?
It's happy hour. It's like, what do you expect?
Yeah.
Okay, and the correct answer was 1, which was a superficial BCC, then 3, which was a nodular BCC, and then 2, which was a micronodular BCC, and we could say so because of these small clots, small blue and brown dots and clots that are suggestive of micronodular BCC. Perfect.
Can I tell you something? There's a problem. There's a problem with this format. I submitted exactly the same order, and it deems it as incorrect. I don't know why. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But we should look into it because, like, I'm sure that other people did the same.
Yeah, but strange. So you submitted 1, 3, 2.
Yes, and Michael Christopher says the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
We should check the format.
Yeah. No idea. What happened here is that actinic keratosis is first, followed by PH and Ioana. And this brings us to the question number 4. 6 lesions. Look at them carefully. Take your time. Look at them carefully.
Which one is BCC?
The question is, which one is out of the context? Out of the context.
Yeah.
Pum, 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 pum. Out of the context was the lesion number 4, of course, because the lesion number 4 was a BCC, while all the other lesions were melanomas. You agree, my friends?
Bello.
Absolutely.
Absolutely nice. What happened here is that actinic keratosis is still first, Ioana and Chin, micro MM and KDJDKKD in the 5th place.
Go Chin.
And case number 5, the last one, that's a quite of a nodule, I would say. That's dermoscopy of this nodule. And now, the question, which
type?
Diagnosis, do you think that this is a blue nevus, a dermatofibroma, melanoma, or BCC?
Tricky.
Yeah.
Blue nevus versus dermatofibroma.
Yeah, those two.
Blue nevus versus melanoma.
In the real life, it was even more tricky because this developed, by the way, dermatofibroma is the correct answer. It was even more tricky because this developed 2 centimeters away from a clear-cut advanced melanoma. So in the differential, metastasis was also included, obviously.
Oh,
Very tough.
true challenge.
And
So
finally,
the podium will be
micro
very
MM in the
micro MM.
Micro.
KDJDKKD in the second, and Chin!
Bravo! Bravo, Chin.
Fantastic.
Great to see her.
Bene,
Yeah.
bene.
Is Shin the Shin we know, I guess?
He's.
She.
Great.
See.
By the way, the cases were great, Emilios.
Yeah. Shin, show up. Show up.
Not her.
Fantastic.
Wonderful. It was a very tough count, by the
Hey,
way.
I told you, all of them will be tough from now on.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
my decision.
Bravo.
Cheers. Wow.
Amazing.
Finally.
And also
Wonderful.
thank you for the great questions.
Yes, all your questions are so spot on. We love them.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Excellent show.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Where are you
Va
located?
bene, guys. Va bene, guys. We have to organize for the next episode, brilliant nail episode. Don't you think so?
Nail. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do it.
Yeah.
We're gonna nail it.
Nail it.
I love it.
Nail
We're
it.
gonna nail it.
Wonderful.
Ragazzi, un bacione.
Bye bye.
Guys, thank you all so
Next
much.
Sunday.
You all.
Ciao. Bye 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 bye.
Bye 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 bye.
Bye-bye.